بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
So the first thing, we'll try to quickly see how we can upload the ASAV image. Now, if you want to set up the labs for the ASA firewall or any of those, now the main thing you need to make sure that you do have those images present inside your device. Means whatever the EVNG you are running, you need to make sure that it has those options. Now, the good thing about the EVNG here is, again, you can run both the ASA as well as the ASAV images. So which means you can run the new ASA version like ASAV 9. version. That is one option you can run. And the next thing, you can also run the ASA 8.4 version, the older version. And again, if you go back with the ASA options, so a couple of things here, you can run the ASA V version, which runs the 9.x version, which is the common what we are going to use. And again, if you're running some ASA labs with 8.4 version image, that is something you can also run. Now, if you're doing some kind of redundancy labs in the ASA, that is where you will be using the ASA, because mostly in the virtual labs, what we do for the ASA, this ASAV image doesn't support some of the labs. So for that, you will be using this 8.4 version. So that's something you can run both the things. And as you can see, this is my new topology, which is set up. And if I click on the node, I don't have the node images here. As you can see, there are some Windows host images. Mostly I use this for some of my firepower FTT labs or probably for SD-WAN. You can see here, maybe you want to use for the ASA. So you can see I don't have the ASAV image. So the first thing what I'll do is I'll show you how to upload the ASAV image. Again, you must be running some kind of FTP software, WinSCP here. That's what I'll be using here. And then I'll need to copy those images to the drive. So I'm going to connect my EVNG host, which is on 192.168.15.117. That is the IP where my EVNG host is hosted. You can see the VM. Inside the VM, you can see this is the IP. And likewise, I need to log in with a username, the CLI username and the password. So make sure that you connect. The same thing what we do with the other as well. Go to the root directory. In that root directory, we need to go to the /opt unit lab. And then we need to get back to options. So you need to go to add-ons, and inside the KMO, you need to copy the images. So locate your device where you can upload the images. Now here you can see in my E drive where I have the images with ASAV as well as the ASA, these images. So I can upload multiple. And here you can see there is an ASA 8.4.2 version as well, or even 9. Version as well. So we can upload these images on this. So I'll try to upload this image, the 8.4.2. And then also you can upload the ASAV image. So this is one of the image we'll upload, and the other one I need to upload is the ASAV image. So here we'll be using ASAV image for the VPN labs. Of course, you will be using this ASA normal 8.4 image or the normal image, which is not virtual. You can see the V and those options. We have to select that. Now, similar way, I'll try to upload this ASAV image, ASAV 9.7.1. So you can run any one of this. Probably that will be sufficient. So let's wait for this to upload. And once it gets uploaded, I should be able to see the options here. You can see when I click on the node, I should see the ASA as well as the ASAV option. And when I click on ASAV, I don't see any sub options here. As you can see, the image is still getting uploaded. We just need to wait for some time. But as you can see, there is an ASA as well as the ASAV option. So let's wait for the image to completely copy. And once it gets copied, then probably we can start using the device and start the setup. Okay, so you can see the same folder. Now, this is the folder where I have actually uploaded the images. You can see both the images being uploaded. Now, you'll find in the same GNS3 students drive where you do have this ASAV folder. And inside that ASAV folder, again, you can see the ASA folder. Again, here you can see which images you can use for EVNG, the virtual images. And these are the two images which you can use for the EVNG, the older version. And ASAV images as well. I think just now even I have uploaded the same to the ASA folder here as well. So as you can see, these are the two folders which I have uploaded. Now, these are the two folders you require for this one. I think I can delete this one because I don't need. Already I have created one separate folder where you'll find the ASA older images along with the ASAV images. Now the ASAV, this is the ASAV image as well. So probably most of the files, as I said, will be uploaded to the same drive. So let's go back and see if the image is uploading is done on the WinSCP. As you can see, this is done. So which means I can close this and I can load my ASAV image. So probably preferable to use ASAV image. I'll be using for VPN labs here. But depending upon the labs, you need to select that one. As I said, there are some labs where you will be running ASA image for redundancy or some of the context, these kind of labs in the ASA. So now you can see, let me just quickly start the device and verify the CLI if I'm able to get into the CLI or not. And once the device boots up, we should be able to see the CLI. That basically confirms that everything is working fine. So we'll wait for this device to boot up and hopefully it should get into a command line. So as you can see, the images, it's actually booting up the ASA one. And after some time, I should be able to see the CLI. I think everything is okay here. Okay, so you can see I'm able to get into the command line. So what I did is I just need to stop the device from here and then restart that again. That actually works. So meantime, what I did, I also try to upload another image version so that in case if one of the image have some issue, I can just quickly switch over to the second one. So that is something I also did. You can upload 2-3 different versions of the images to be on the safe side so that in case, because most of the time the software have some issues. So you just need to stop the devices or restart the device. These things generally happen. And also it depends on the processing capability of the devices as well. Now, as you can see, I'm able to get into the CLI of my ASA platform. And I should be able to make any changes from here onwards. So if you want to make any changes, we can do it from here. So as you can see, the other image also, the first time I think it is rebooting a little bit. But I'll also verify the other option, other image also should be working. So I'll keep this aside. We can move on with the topology setup here. Now, the next thing, we'll quickly move on with the basic setup of our topology. So we'll be using the ASA with multiple devices and some host here. And we'll try to quickly set up the same part here. The same SSL VPN topology, but this time we'll be doing on the EVNG software here. So we need one ASA. So we already loaded up the ASA and the CLI, which verified that it is working. So I can go ahead and change a little bit later. Then host name and other things, the interface configurations will do it. But again, before we get into any of the configurations, I would like to set up the topology as per the requirement. So we can say like this is going to be my backup topology, which I can use in case if my GNS3 doesn't work sometimes. So we need some devices to be hosted here. So we need some routers. So I'm going to use the normal iWays devices, which can be router 1, router 3. I need three of those devices. If you check 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to select 3 options here. The interfaces, if you want to add, you can add some multiple interfaces and click on the name, host name. Let me just use R so that it can be like router 1, router 2, router 3, if possible. Now, as you can see, I have router 3. Router 3 will be somewhere here, and then there is a router 1 and 2. And the next thing, we need to have a switch. Switch is something we can use a normal switch or an iWays switch. You can use an iWays switch with a 16 with a slot, the 16 ESW. This is exactly a switch port. We can either use that or we can just use a normal connection. So this is going to be switch 1, and then the number of node will be 1. If you want to change the symbol, we can also change the symbol here. So I prefer to use this iWays switch. So I'll be changing this symbol to switch so that it looks like a switch, even though it is a router image. Some kind of switch symbol, even though it's an iWays image, we can use that. And the next thing, we need to start these devices and start the setup, connecting. And also we need to add some Windows machines. Now, again, adding the Windows machines, we need to make sure that you do have this Windows host, which is image is already copied into the same folder. Here you can see the 8.1 version, and the same image you'll find inside the folder which we have shared. If you go to the GNST students drive which we have shared, here you'll find Windows host. Now this is the image we have to use inside the EVNG, and this is the image we generally use in the GNS3 VMware host. Now this image you have to upload. I think it's the same image what you'll see here, the same file name. You should not rename the folders in case of EVNG. Use as it is. So it's already uploaded, which means I should be able to see the host, which means I can see the Windows server as well as Windows machine. I need Windows machine. There's one image. I need number of hosts will be 2. One is used as my internal ASDM, and the other one will be for remote user. So 4 GB RAM it's using. That I think that should be fine. So we have this Windows 7 or Windows 8 host connecting here and there. So we can rename the devices as per my topology, because here I'll be using router 2 as per my topology here. And there is a router 1. So I'm going to change this to router 1. Change the host name to router 1. And then you can see that this is my router 3, router 1. And the Windows host, I'll change the host name as the PC1 and the PC3. So the PC1 will be my host inside, where I'll be using the graphical interface for my access. And likewise, the PC2, this is going to be my PC2. So we'll rename this as a PC2. So this is my PC2, which is going to be my remote user. You can also give the name as remote user, something like that. The name will be a little bit lengthier. I think that will be fine. Now, once we have this remote PC user, this device is not required anyway. We just tested for the ASA with a different image as well. I think that's also working. So I don't need this. I can just stop this device and delete that. Now let's do the connectivity part. Now in terms of connectivity, we will be connecting this to the port. Now make sure that you are connecting them to the F1 port. These are the switch ports, 1 to 15. They all are part of the switch port. Connect from 0 to 15, I think F1 by 0 to 15. Let's connect to 1, 2, 3 like that. So don't connect to the initial ports here. These ports, these 2 ports are router ports, and the 0, 1, 2, 3, these are my switch ports. Now they all goes and connects to the switch. Now likewise, I'm going to connect the ASA as well. Now in terms of ASA, I think G0/1 I'm using on the LAN side. So here I'll be using G0/1 and here it will be G0/2. G0/2 will be my outside interface as per my topology here. And then this goes and connects to router 2. G0/2 goes and connects to router 2, F0/0 or F0/1. Now this is my F0/1 and this is my F0/0. And likewise, there is a remote host we are going to use for the router 2. One single port connecting on F0/0. Now, if you see, this is the same setup we need to start. Let me just quickly start the devices here. So all the devices we can quickly start and get into the CLI to do the quick initial configurations. Now, in terms of initial configurations, we have to make sure that we configure the ASA as per the things. So first, I'll start with the ASA setup. Now, the ASA setup, I'm going to say interface G0/1. The IP address is going to be 192.168.1.10. And then we say name if it's going to be my inside. And then G0/2 will be my outside interface, which is going to be using 20.10. And then I'm going to configure the default route towards the ASA. So the route will be route outside 00 and then 100.0.20.2. So that's going to be my default route. So default route towards the other side. And likewise, I'll be doing the same thing for the router 1 and the router 2. Now, router 1 and router 3 will be acting as my simple host. So I don't need to do much of the configurations. Make sure that you go to the CLI of these devices and verify the CLI here. Because this is my router 3. Make sure that you skip the setup mode. And then the switch 1 is providing the connectivity. Make sure that you skip that setup mode on the switch side as well as on the router 1. So I'll start with the router 3. Now on the router 3, I'll simply disable the routing because they are just simulating my internal host. Like I said, in my SSL VPN, this is going to simulate my HTTP servers internally. So the only thing what we'll do is we'll simply disable the routing and then we'll configure the default gateway. The default gateway will be my ASA, which is 192.168.100. Now, same thing, I need to do it on the router 1 as well. Additionally, I have to configure the IPs. So additionally, I have to configure the IP here. The IP address is going to be 192.168.1.1, which is on the router 1. And likewise, on the router 3, assign the IP address. So these are my internal hosts acting as my HTTP server. So the host name is router 3. And the next thing we need to just quickly confirm, we do have the LAN reachability to 1.1 host, which is my router 1. I should get a reply, and as well as I must be getting a reply from the ASA if everything is okay. And also we need to simulate the host. I think this part is done, the left side part. We'll quickly move to router 2 and finish up the configuration on the router 2 as well. The ASA side we did. On the router 2 side, we need to do the basic IP configuration. And after that, so in my case, we do have two interfaces on the router 2. So the first thing, I'll change the host name quickly. So the LAN interface 192.168.2.2. And then the interface F0/1, which is connecting to my ASA. And once we are done with this CC verify show IP interface brief, we should be able to see the interfaces. And likewise, we need to also configure the route. So from the ASA side, we are going to configure the default route. And from the router 2, I'm going to configure the static route for 192.168.1.subnet. That's something I'll be doing so that we can have some end-to-end reachability between the LAN and the remote users. Finally, we'll be doing the setup for the PCs as well once we are done with this routing configuration. So let's wait for this to come up. So meantime, I'll try to see the translation. Whenever you type any wrong command, it goes to that translating option. So meantime, what I'll do is I'll quickly go back and start the options here. I need to get into my GUI of the PCs. So I'll be using this VNC viewer to be able to log in. So when you move the cursor, you can see normally when you click, you can integrate, but somehow it's not working for me. So I need to just use the other way. You need to say 172.192.115.117. That's my IP of the EVNG. And then you can observe that on the bottom on the left side, you will see the exact port number you have to use, 5495. 5495. Now this is my host. Test123 is a password, capital T, and then 123 is a password. And likewise, I should be able to open up for the other host as well. The other host is going to be remote user 45233. So hopefully that number is correct. And this is the remote user here. So this is the access for the remote user. And you can see there are two windows here. And likewise, I'll go to router 2 and finish up the configuration left over on the router 2. I think I have to configure the default route to static route for 1.network. And the next hop address is 20.10. Now the main thing what we have to make sure that is we do have the reachability from here. So from here, if I try to ping to 1.1, I think the reachability depends on multiple things, because the ASA also should have a route for this one. But anyway, the mostly here we need to have reachability from here to here. So if I go to router 1 and see the reachability, I have to ping 100.0.20.2. Again, that is through the ASA, because the ASA ICMP inspection, these kind of things, when the traffic goes through the ASA, we can enable ICMP inspection for that, but anyway, not required as of now, because we are using the VPN lab, so we can just skip this part. Now, the main thing what I need to do is I need to make sure that this remote user should be able to ping to this gateway. That's the important thing, so that he can open up the web browser to be able to log in onto the remote user. So which means I need to go back to my PCs and also configure the IPs to them. So the first one, the PC one, which I'm using the ASDM from where I'm going to manage remotely. I'll go to my network places and we'll try to do the initial configuration of the IP. Like the IP address is going to be 192.168.1.5 I'll be using. And the gateway will be 192.168.1.10. That is my ASA. And once I do this, if I go back to my CMD and quickly verify the reachability to other devices, 1.1 is my router 1. I must be getting a reply. And likewise, I should also have the reachability to 1.3. I should be getting a reply. And also, I should be also getting a reply from 1.10, which is my gateway. So this basically confirms that we do have the reachability here. That's the first thing. And the next thing is we need to also make sure that the second device, the remote user, also should be able to communicate here. Now, the second user, the remote PC user, here also we need to go and assign the IP. So if I go and change the settings here, if I go to my properties, and we will be assigning the IP address here. The IP address is going to be manual, in our case, 192.168.2.5. And the gateway is 192.168.2.2. That's my gateway. So which means from the remote PC, the 2.2 PC here, 2.5, I think, I should be able to ping to the gateway 192.168.2.2, which is my gateway. And also, if my routing is configured correctly, I should be able to ping to my ASA as well. So from here, you are able to ping to the ASA because automatically, whenever you are trying to reach out a different subnet, in my case, it is 100.0.20.10, the packet goes to the router, and the router is going to simply route the packet to this because it notes it is a connected interface. And likewise, when the ASA already have a default route, where it will automatically send the return traffic based on the default route it reaches back. So the main thing, the prerequisite, we need to make sure that the remote user, the PC, should have reachability to this gateway, VPN gateway, so that he should be able to log in through the remote access once the remote VPN configurations are done. So now the next thing here, the challenge with EVNG here, as we'll be doing some labs relating to the remote VPN, again, the ASA image. Now inside the ASAV image, we need to have this ASDM image, which needs to be uploaded from the PC. So which means in my case, if you go back to the topology here, now in this topology we need to have this ASDM image probably here. Of course, for that, you also need the TFTP software, because TFTP software is something you also need to have to do that, right? That's a kind of thing you need to require. So a couple of softwares you need to require for setting up these things, which means now this ASDM, now this is my virtual machine inside the EVNG topology here. And these are on my physical PC. So the PC or the laptop, what I have, basically that contains all my files. So which means we need to find a way to copy the images from here to this PC so that I can copy it from the ASDM image to the ASA. That's how it is. Because I'm not connecting my physical computer here, that's another thing. You can also connect your physical computer and you can share the files. There is a way to do that as well. But again, you need to have a different IP and then connectivity. That's something I don't want to do. So what we'll do is we'll try to do in a different way. Now, again, to do this, there are two different ways I probably have found. One option is you can simply connect this PC1 So the PC1, whatever I'm using here, this simply I can connect to the internet, and I can simply go to the G drive and then download those files. That is one way. That is a simple option you can go with. Of course, you need to have the links and all. You need to log into the Gmail. You need to have the link a little bit that way. That is one option I think we can go with. Considering this option, now if you go with this option, let me quickly show you how we do. So we need to make sure that you go back to the topology, and this is my PC, right? So I need to stop this PC and add the NIC cards here. So which means I need to quickly add one more NIC card for this PC. So which means I need to go back and edit. So one interface is already connecting there, and I'm going to add one more interface card, the interface 2, and then click on save. And one interface goes and connects to my physical topology, and another interface is going to connect. Let me start this device. And another interface is going to connect to my internet. So which means I need to add the internet cloud. So whenever you want to add internet connection, you just need to go and add the network, click on network, and give some any name, let's say internet. Use any symbol, whatever the symbol you want. And here we have to select this management cloud. So whenever you select this management cloud, this is basically a way to connect your host to the internet. And that's something what I'm trying to do here. So which means now here, the PC is having two interfaces, right? Now this is my internet cloud. So I'm going to use another interface which comes and connects to the management cloud. The second interface, which we have added. Now this way, this PC, this device is having two connections. One goes to the ASA, to the local LAN, and the other goes to the internet. And I need to open up the VNC for that. 6259. So I'd use a different port, 6259. And I should be able to open up the option here, the device. And I should also be able to access the internet. So that's something we'll verify. So let's try to quickly log in. The password is test123, T is capital. And once we are logging in, we'll quickly do the verification for my internet. That's what we'll try to do. Now, this is something we do generally in multiple couple of labs, like if you have in the ASAs, if you're doing some kind of internet access kind of thing, we can do this way. Let me see if the NIC interface, the second one is getting the IP dynamically, because there are two interfaces what we have been using. And the first interface is connecting to the network. So I'm not going to disturb this. So if you just quickly see the status of this one, the first interface, it is 192.168.1.5, which is connecting to my local LAN inside the EVNG. The second interface is going to be my interface, which by default have the option of obtain IP automatically. So which means as per that obtain IP automatically option, I'm expecting this device must get an IP dynamically. So let me just quickly confirm these things. Because sometimes when you already have the topology, maybe you need to check these things. And if I go to the status and verify the details, I should be able to see the IP. It's getting from 192.168.15. Now this 15.subnet is the actual subnet what I'm using for my wireless network, for my internet and all those things. So which means this also gets an IP. So if you try to ping to, we just wanted to verify, we can just verify the reachability to google.com. You can see the replies coming. And even if you try to access any web page, so it might be a little bit slower compared to the normal machines because it's inside the VM. Now here you can open up the link and probably you can download any of the softwares, like whatever the softwares you want, you can download here and install. That's how one of the way you do. Okay, so this is one way you can simply log into the Gmail and simply download the file. So make sure that you're using the updated browser, or I recommend you to use this Mozilla at the time of login. That might help, because here, as you can see, when I'm trying to go with to my Google Drive or download anything, it's saying update your browser. That can be an issue because it's using the Windows 8 operating system and a very old operating system with the old version kind of thing. The other option is, as this device is already connecting to a network, if I quickly go back, the second option, if you see, if I go to my CMD, my own device command prompt. So this is my device. So if I go to my device, and if I quickly verify the IP address of my device, I'm using this Wi-Fi network, the Wi-Fi network, which is using 192.168.15.103. So which means I can go with access any of the shared folder inside. 103 is the IP. So which means the second PC, I should be able to communicate with 192.168.15.1. 15.1 is my wireless router. And also I should be able to access 15.103, which is my local laptop. If firewall is not enabled, if there is no issue with that, in that case, I think I should be able to do that. Assuming the firewall, Windows firewall is not enabled. Now inside the host, so I'm going to quickly turn off these firewalls on this side. I think this is not the case. I think the firewall is enabled on my local host. Let me check there as well. So we'll come back quickly and quickly disable the firewall, these options, firewalls and the network protection. And from there, we'll try to disable that. Now here you can see I just tried to disable the firewall on the public network. That's something I did because I'm connecting on that network, and let me see if that works or not. If this works, then probably I can just access via shared drive. So you can see I'm able to access. Once I disable the firewall, the ping will work. And which means just for the sake of testing, I can just disable that. Let me just enable it back. And what I need to do is I want to access my drive, right? So I can access via shared folder. So if we quickly open up the PC, any Windows Explorer window, and then /192.168.15.103 is the IP address of my laptop. Again, if you know the username and the password, you should be able to connect. That's a way you do. That's what you can do because it is on the same subnet. Okay, so what we are doing is the other way we can go with a shared drive. So what I did is I go back to my network. If I just go back to the network, I have the specific shared folder on my server here, the server which I'm connecting, and this is my folder. And from here, I can copy the files. So I do have this ASDM image, which I'll be using here. The ASDM image, this one. So I can simply copy this and copy and paste it to any of the drive. I think there is only one drive here, so I can copy paste this to anywhere here, let's say. Or I can copy paste this on the desktop itself. So on the desktop, I'm going to copy this ASDM image, and the other one, I'm going to copy another file. Now, this is a shared folder, so make sure that you have that folder shared. And again, sharing folder is not a big deal. I hope you know, but let me just quickly show you. If you want to have the folder shared, then simply you can go back to that particular folder, right-click properties. There is an option for sharing. So normally you have to go and select share these options or advanced sharing. And then you can share this folder. Just click on this. That's something you need to do. And you will be able to access that particular shared folder here. Now that's the first thing. And also I need to require that Cisco TFTP software. That is also one more software I require. I should have copied without RAR. That's one more file, because Cisco TFTP is something I'll be using for copying. Again, for this, I need to have that WinRAR file again. Now, these are the two files, ASDM file, and that is in a zip. I should have not copied without zip, which means if that is a zip folder, again, you need to have this WinRAR software. Basically, that should be installed to open up this one, or WinZip, this kind of things. Okay. So as you can see, there are a lot of things. One probably leads to other options here. And I'm going to install quickly this one so that I should be able to open up this Cisco TFTP software. So it's not installed in my VM, so I'm trying to install that Cisco TFTP. Probably this will be useful a little bit later on. Now inside the VM, as you can see, I'm trying to install this one as well. You can also use any other TFTP softwares. I prefer this. This is a little bit easier for us to work around. I have been using this. So you need to have the Cisco TFTP. Now, how to copy the image? There are some options. Like we need to make sure that you do have the Cisco TFTP software running in the backend here. TFTP software, and then you need to have this ASDM image. And I'm going to copy this to my device. So now we got both the TFTP running, but make sure that you make some changes here, like change the TFTP root directory where it has to locate that particular file. And that is my desktop, where exactly my ASDM file is located. We need to change this one. And also we need to make sure that if I try to see some other options here, let's see if this works. So one more thing, you need to make sure that the TFTP is running on this particular subnet if you have multiple interfaces. So if you have multiple interfaces, then make sure that it is running on that particular network, whatever the network you're running. So I don't want to run on this because that is my public network, because my TFTP is running on this 192.168.1.subnet, which means I can just go ahead and disable these interfaces for time being. That should be okay. So I think this is the subnet which I don't want. So I'll quickly disable this interface. And if you're using some licensed options, licensed tools, then in that scenarios, you may have some additional options available to select the correct interface. If not, then not to worry. So we just need to go ahead and disable that interface and close the TFTP application and open it up again. That must be connecting to the 192.168.1.subnet. That's what we are trying to expect. Okay, so let's go back to my Windows machine. You can see there are a lot of things we have to go with this. So let's go back to my device here. As you can see, if I go to my network connections. So with this interface is disabled, and the TFTP software, which is running in the backend, already it is running. So I'm going to close this and then reopen this one again. So when you try to reopen, I should see it is going to show up 192.168.1.5. That's where we are running the TFTP. And as I already discussed, we need to make sure that the root directory is also must be on the desktop where you have that ASDM file, as you can see on the screen itself. Now we can go to the ASA on my event. Now I can go to my ASA and I can start copying the image. So let's go back to my ASA V, and I'm going to say copy from TFTP to flash. And what is the address of the remote host? 192.168.1.5. Check the reachability before you do this. And what is the file name? The file name, you can see ASDM 761.bin. And destination file name is also the same. As you can see, the copy process is started. That's what you see in the backend. In the backend, you see these hashes indicates that the copying process is going on. So this will take a couple of 5-6 minutes, I think. Once it is done, we should be able to see that ASDM image, which will again allow you to be able to access the ASDM via graphical interface on the ASA. So let's wait for this process to finish up, and then we'll also do the verification part. So you can see the copying process has been successful. It took around 4-5 minutes, I think, not more than that. So if you go and say show flash inside the ASA, you should be able to see this ASDM image, which means I should be able to log into the ASDM as well. Now, again, logging onto the ASDM the same way, you need to go back to browser. Now, this is the same setup what you may have seen already inside the ASA course probably. Now, here we are just trying to do the same setup in the case of our VPN labs. So as per this topology, I should be able to log in. So which means I need to type in 192.168.1.10, from where I first go to the web browser, and from there I can download the ASDM application onto the device. So that's something I have to do. So we already have the reachability, so I don't need to check the reachability part. So let's wait for the options to come up here. Now, there are a couple of things we did not enable. Is we have to enable HTTP server, because HTTP is not enabled on the ASA. That was the reason we are unable to open. And also we need to specify the HTTP should be enabled from my inside interface, because in my lab, I'm going to use it from the inside interface. You can see if you miss one single thing, there's a problem. So username, admin, whatever the password, let's say NY123, the privilege is 15, create a user account, because it is going to prompt for the user account. That's the first thing. And make sure that you also save the configuration. So once you enable this, now I should be able to open up the web page. So if I just click on 192.168.1.10, I'm expecting now the HTTP is being enabled. I should see it has to open up the page. Use HTTPS. So now you can see I'm able to open up the web page. It shows up the risk, proceed to save. And this is what the first window it shows up. So I need to install this ASDM launcher. Before that, I need to install the Java runtime, the Java web start. That's something we have to do. And make sure that you're also connecting your device to the internet. So I just enabled this interface. Remember in the previous, I have disabled it during the TFTP process. Now I have just enabled that. I'm going to install the Java web start, because it is connecting to internet, which is going to automatically redirect to the Java website from where I can download and install this. So the Java is a backend application required for the graphical interface to run. And this will take some few time again. So we'll try to install this part. And once we install this part, then I can also install the ASDM software. So let's wait for this to install. So this should open up the Java runtime page, right? That's what I'm expecting. So I'm just trying to use this Chrome. That's what I'm trying to do, because the Google Chrome is not responding because it's an old browser. That might be the issue. So I have switched to the Google Chrome. Let's see installing the Java website from here. And hopefully it should redirect to the same java.com web page from where I can load up. And you can see it's going to pop up, download the Java. And we have to download and install the same thing. So that's required. And once you finish the installation process, you may need to restart the browser for these things to work. Okay, not a problem. We'll install this. So it takes few seconds to finish up the installation process, as we can see. And once it is done, we should be able to install the other one as well. So let's wait for this one. So hopefully I should be able to see this Java runtime. So let me close the browser. If it has finished the process, I think it's still going on here. And once it finishes off, I'll reopen the page. So it says there is an out of date version I was also installed. So simply uninstall that. So again, if this operating system comes with a default Java version, that's fine. But this Java is a backend application you need to have to be installed. So I think we have successfully installed that. So I'll go back to the same page, the web browser which you have closed. You can reopen up. It's going to integrate this Java program. And from there, I should be able to log in here. So let me type in the URL of my ASA once again, HTTPS 192.168.1.10. And now I'm going to install the ASDM launcher, because one way you can, now this time it is going to prompt for the username and the password of my ASA. And my ASA username password, which I have created, is admin, and the password is NOA123. And once you type in the correct username and the password, it's going to install the ASDM launcher application. Now, this ASDM launcher application is something what we are trying to use for login, because I don't need to use the browser. I can use this ASDM launcher application. That's something enough for me. So this is the one which we have to install. So click on that and install this application. Because every time you don't need to use the browser. Without browser, you can log in. That's the main advantage with this one. I think I'm trying to minimize this one. Yeah. Now, once this ASDM launcher software is installed, we should see the shortcut on the desktop, and from there we should be able to log into my ASA via graphical interface. Now, once this is done, as you can see on the desktop, you can see the option here. Okay, so I'll try to load this. This is a shortcut. If there is an issue, probably you can directly load it from the C drive. There will be an option, hopefully inside the Cisco systems. Now, this is the ASDM launcher option. Now, if the shortcut doesn't work, then this is a way you have to do. And type in the IP address of my ASA and the username of the ASA admin and the password. And where 123, I should be able to log in from this one. And once you click on this, we should be able to load up the ASDM, the graphical interface of the ASA, from where we'll be doing most of the configurations relating to graphical interface like VPNs and other stuff. We can do it from here. As you can see, this is my ASDM launcher, the license is installed. Okay, fine. So no issues. We'll go to this ASDM launcher. Now, this is a window where you will find the ASDM launcher. So hopefully it's not lagging here, because sometimes it takes more time to load up when we move on with the options. So if you just click on these options, as you can see, you can move on to the monitoring, routing, whatever the configurations you want. You can just simply move on to this interface options, and you can do that. And one more thing I'll do is I'll go to the tools and the preferences. I'll try to always check these preview commands, because every time, whenever you make any changes, you should be able to preview the commands. That's something also I'll try to do. Okay. Now, this is my ASDM setup. Now, probably the ASDM setup is nothing much different than the GNS3. The only difference is we try to do the same thing on the EVNG topology, but it's going to be the same once you connect to the devices, once you get to the CLI, once you get into the GUI.